All right, good morning. It's shortly after 5 a.m. here in just Calgary, and this is going to be a gentle hip practice, and we're going to start on our back. So have a bolster ready for Baddha Konasana. It's really nice, even if you can let your legs go really wide. What's really nice about this is that when you have the bolster under the legs, it takes away the active gravity on your legs, and so your legs and your hips can have a really nice release. So we're going to start there, and then we're going to add a strap and some other fun stuff. Okay, so here we go. On our backs, like so. So you can see that what I've got here is the bolster is really, really close up to my pelvis. And the legs are supported by the bolster. And what I'd like you to do is just settle in. Now you'll see that I've got a bit of a big bolster. It doesn't really matter the size of the bolster. You could also get two bolsters, position a bolster like this so it gives a lot more leg there. But it really, it just depends, right? It depends on what props you have and the level of comfort. I love this position. I also love this position. But when you want more support, you bring the bolster right up to your pelvis. It can be very lovely, not only for your hips, but also for anything through your abdomen and bladder, uterus, lower intestine area. Can really settle stuff out. Now, if you want to add a sandbag, you can add a sandbag. For sometimes, particularly with lower gut and uterus type, bladder type thing, a castor oil pack can be really lovely. So it's lots of different things you can do from this position. And just really, really, really easy breathing. And then from here, where you can go is you can take this leg straight and then bring the other leg up with a strap like so. Now, if you're not straightening this leg and you need to bend the knee, allow your hip to stay at 90. Now, this is the reason I'm a fan of this. There's some styles of yoga that say straighten the knee and then take your hip to wherever it needs to be with the knee straight. And then the idea is that you practice coming like this into the 90 degrees. But here's the problem with that, is that that's quite a load of leg away from the center of your body. So that's a lot of work for your center of your body. So if you bend this knee, bring the leg to 90, keep this leg nice and easy with the bolster, and then as you go, you can start to practice straightening through that knee. Yeah, that's just another way of considering it. The other thing about being here in this position with your legs with a strap is try not to hold the living bejeezers out of the strap. Let your hands be very, very light, like butterfly hands. And you can have your elbows down or up. Just make sure that all of this area is as light and as easy as you can be. Like, can it be 15% less effort? Jaw 15% less effort. And just be gentle with your hands, yeah? Because we want the leg to take the load. And you might say, but Susie, you said this was going to be a gentle practice. Yeah, it is a gentle practice, and this leg is going to take the load, right? We don't want to not let the leg do the work that it needs to do. It's kind of like helicoptering parenting our children, right? We need to let our children do the work. We need to let our leg do the work. And we want it to be easy all throughout, yeah? And so, yeah, there'll be some effort through this leg. But can you be easier through the rest of you? Okay? All right. Now from there, let's swap. So there's sometimes when I've played around with this movement where I've been in it in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And it can be quite effortful through this leg, particularly if your hands are really, really light and you focus on keeping the rest of you really at ease. A lot of reallys in there, right? But truly, it's a really interesting experience to get this part of your leg working without like having to contract, like you're not willfully, forcefully contracting muscles. But because like right now, if I take my hands away, my leg has to do the work, right? And so it's not my foot or my calf that's doing the work as it would be if we were in standing. So it really requires something of the leg in this position. So it is a gentle position, and it's also requiring a little bit of work. Yeah. And this leg being on the bolster over here, it just adds something. Good. Okay, so now from here, let's bring that down. Have the strap handy, and now we're going to move on to our sides. And have the block handy as well. So we're going to come onto our back, or onto our side rather, and place our foot on the block like this. Have the strap close by. And what I want you to focus in on is on your pelvis, keeping your pelvis still, and start moving this leg bone. Now, I'm going to bring your eye to the knee for a second. The knee we want ultimately pointing towards the sky, but I don't want you to think about moving the knee or the foot. I want you to think about moving the leg bone in the hip socket. Yeah? Because that leg bone moving in the hip socket is going to dictate where that knee goes and where that foot goes in this position. And so watch if you want to move all the way through your pelvis. Good. And just play with that motion. And you can also put a blanket under your head if you want rather than your arm. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move this leg up towards our side. This is always a bit tricky getting the strap around your foot. But you can get that strap around the foot. You can also put the strap around your thigh if getting there doesn't work. Yeah? Okay, so now here what becomes interesting is you'll see how it's easy. I'm just going to drop these straps here. It's easy to kind of slump into the side here. And it's not that I want to lift myself up again. It's more about noticing what your pelvis does. So the leg bone moves in the pelvis. But if the leg bone's not moving in the pelvis, or we're just not cognizant of it, or we don't have the coordinating pattern, we can kind of come into this. Right? And the reason why we're doing that is because it's not because we're collapsing, although it looks like that. It's because the pelvis is doing the movement. Look, see how the hip joint's not doing the movement? It's the pelvis doing the movement relative to the ribs, right? As opposed to thinking about the leg bone doing the movement in the pelvis. Now, this might create some neck strain for some of you if you don't have that movement capability. So then where you can be is just, you can start right here. That's completely fine. And then you can then slowly bring it up and slowly bring it up. And maybe you're here and then slowly bring it up. Now, I'm also showing this because I can do that too. We all can do it, right? Because the pelvis can move. And sometimes when I'm talking, I'm not paying as close attention to my body. So yes, we can kind of play here. And then as I'm watching and looking at my leg, I can start to play around a little bit with rotating the leg bone in the hip socket. So if I'm just going to shift my orientation for you so you can see this. Right? So I can be here. Here's my knee, and I'm rotating. It looks like I'm moving my knee. And I'm moving my knee because I moved my leg bone. So I can play with rotating that leg bone in the hip socket, which is kind of fun to do. Because the more ways I figure that we have to play with our leg bones and our hip sockets, the better, I think. Okay, and then if you want to play is just to start, if you want to get there and play with this, you can. But you see how I'm kind of losing it there. So I'm going to come back and just start to explore. Right about here is where I'm going to explore. Good, and then maybe, yeah. Okay, let's go to the other side. So another way you can explore this, I'm going to show you another way as we get ourselves over, is you can come against a wall like this so that you can feel your whole back against the wall, like this. And then you get a really good perspective of where your leg is in space relative to the wall. Yeah? So all sorts of ways that you can explore this. Yeah, or down here. But that's just another way that you can think about it. Okay, so we can start with the block here. And just play around with that leg bone motion in the pelvis. And then starting to bring the leg up, bringing the leg up. And then just noticing, let me come on to here a bit more. Just noticing where your pelvis is in space. Now I think my pelvis is, there's a lot of comments coming up here, so I can't actually see myself really well in my screen. But I think my pelvis is moving a little bit more than my leg. So I'm just going to do this a bit here. I'm going to start here. Right, so very, very many different ways that you can play with this. Yeah? Okay. Now from here, I'm going to show another one to you that you can play with. Coming back to the block so that you're here. So the foot's on the block, and this leg bone is going to go towards the wall, and the roller, you're going to roll the roller forward. So this leg bone is rotating backward, and your arm bone is, or your shoulder blade is protracting. So you're protracting and rotating at the same time. And if you follow any of the work around anatomy trains and myofascial meridians, this is a great example of spiral line. So pay attention to the leg bone and the pelvis. See if you can keep the ball of your foot on the block as you do the movement. And now what will be interesting is now see, after having done that, if coming up here with your leg is different. And I could, for me, you might see it in the camera, but I can actually feel a difference in my ability to move through my leg bone and my hip. Yeah? Interesting? Okay, other side. Okay. So this leg is rotating back. This arm through the shoulder blade is the shoulder blade is protracting. And you can use I find using a roller supports the arm. And again, pay attention to the ball of your foot. That you feel the ball of your foot on the block. And then if you've already done this one to your side, notice if having done that motion changes the motion coming up here. Yeah? Good. Perfect. Okay, now let's bring that to the side. Okay, now from here, just take a breather on your back and see what it is that you feel in through your belly and in through your hips, in through your torso. And we're going to take the block now and lift your hips and place the block under your hips. And I've put mine on my medium height. This would be, or on the smaller height. This would be more tall. This would be really tall, and this block is quite big, so that's way too tall for me. This is medium. This is small. So these are bigger blocks than your average blocks, and so I've chosen small. You choose what makes sense for you. But if you're doing like what I did, look, you saw this. It's like, ugh. Actually, I got into it better that time, but that's just too high at this time of the day, perhaps, for me. So you don't want to get all cramped up into your neck just to get into a position. That's why I demonstrated that awkward movement. Just really work with what your body is. Just settling into your breathing. Feeling the inhale and the exhale. And then let's take that block away and then rest back. And you can do one of two things. You can bring your bolster back and bring the bolster under the legs and be back here and just now notice what that feels like. And or you can just take your legs out straight there and notice what that feels like. So you choose where you want to be. And just feel the impact and the influence of what you've just done today. Whether you're joining me in the morning, or whether it's later in the day or in the evening. And then when you're ready, and you're ready to move on, and just bring yourself into a position where you can take 5 transitionary breaths, whether they're in sitting or laying down, connecting with your breath. And bringing your hands together. And in with ease and out with gratitude. Thank you so much for watching and joining me today. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Take good care. Bye-bye.